Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sean Brodrick, senior editor at WeissRatings.com. He's speaking to us from Florida. Welcome back to the show, Sean.
Thanks.
Sean, oil, it's pulling back a bit, but do you think it still has a bright future?
I do. I mean, I expect that we'll see a bumpy road for oil this year, but I've recently moved my subscribers into oil stocks that pay dividends, and I'm especially looking at those with kind of a moat around their business, but especially those that, well, let me explain that some oil companies have actually cut their dividends, which is not good. So you want to look for those companies that can actually maintain their dividends and hopefully increase them. In this kind of low interest rate environment, which we have, those stocks will be especially attractive if the price of oil stays, say, above $30 per barrel. And again, those companies that can maintain their dividend are probably the companies that can make money at $30 per barrel. There are at least a few of them, I know, because I put my subscribers into them. So I think we'll have a really rocky road, but we've seen the U.S., OPEC nations, and Russia and its allies all drop oil production. In the U.S., it's really been because of price. It really isn't so much an action by the government. It is just that the price is so low. And in the shale fields where you have production fall off rather quickly on those wells, if they aren't doing any more drilling, and nobody's going to be doing any more drilling if oil is under $40 per barrel, then you can really see production come in quite a bit. And so that's why I'm expecting in, say, the fourth quarter, we're really going to have, if not a squeeze in oil prices, a return to something more normal. My price targets for the year is oil is a bottom of 30 and a top of 50, but I wouldn't be surprised to see oil go over that toward the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Now, are the Arabs and Russia still continuing their little public spat, but the real goal is to kill U.S. shale?
Well, that has often been seen as what they are trying to do. I mean, but then we threatened to pull missiles out of Saudi Arabia and pretty much remove our protection from Saudi Arabia. So that seemed to bring the Saudis around. I'm not sure that they want to so much kill U.S. shale anymore. After all, the Saudis are like one of the countries that's actually cutting its production the most. But they aren't in any hurry to actually prop things up, say, above $40 to $45. So, because I think that's a price they can live with. They have their own expenses as well. I mean, they need a certain price or else they aren't going to make their budgets. But they can probably do it between $40 and $50 per barrel, that's okay for some shale producers. It's not okay for a lot of them. So I don't see it as actual malevolence now, as like this is what the market will bear. I mean, we have had a tremendous economic hit. We are kind of hitting the bottom on that, so that's good. But we have a long way to go to get back to where we were. And when we are in this kind of situation, you are going to see stuff like oil just underperform. That said, certain oil companies, those ones that keep raising their dividends, the ones that kind of have a moat around their business, they can continue to do very well, and they are on sale. So that's why I'm actually looking at them now.
When you look at an oil company, should you see if they're trying to diversify what they do besides just drill for oil? I remember Shell a few years ago bought a wind farm for $200 million. In Alberta, Suncor is looking at producing hydrogen and other and electrifying their oil field to make it even more energy efficient. Is that something you should be looking at when you invest in oil?
Well, it's really a case-by-case basis. I mean, I've only recommended 2 oil producers, both of whom can make money over $30 per barrel. You should also look at the midstream companies, those like companies that move oil and gas from place to place, and also store oil. You know, I'm sure they're doing lots of money renting out their storage tanks right now, and also refiners. I mean, they can still do very well. They just need people to start driving again, and that's what we're seeing happening. Ford is already at 96% of its normal production now, and says it'll ramp back up to full production sometime in early July, and their like sales of their F-150 trucks are just flying. Now, this might be because people had stimulus money in their pocket, might be because people finally had to replace vehicles. I'm not really sure why, but that's what we're seeing here. And in places like China and Japan and Germany, we are seeing traffic levels already getting back to what they were before the COVID-19 virus hit. So that's because, you know, there is no vaccine for the virus yet. So if people can in some way afford to avoid taking public transport, they're going to avoid public transport. To do that, they have to drive. So in a weird way, we are seeing the virus stimulate gasoline use. You know, I mean, not everywhere, of course. I mean, in places like India, which has massive traffic, usually they still have everyone off the roads. But in spots around the world, important economies, you are seeing demand start to come back. And as it comes back, it's coming back stronger because people are avoiding public transport.
Also, one of our oil analysts said maybe in North America the driving demand might be down with more people working from home, but he said the African economies and most of Asia outside of China still plan to use oil to power their vehicles for the foreseeable future. Yeah,
of course, anyone who can actually figure out Africa, good luck to them. The place is huge. Saying things happen in Africa. I mean, Africa is so big that it's really hard to draw any kind of generalization about what happens there, but it's certainly true. You know, those are growing economies generally, and yeah, they'll like have more cars, use more gasoline, that kind of thing. You can see that trend is still in place.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after this.
Cypress Development Corp is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. Sean, the NASDAQ continues to set record highs even when the other stock markets are either holding back or staying steady. What's behind this huge rise in the NASDAQ?
Well, we are seeing speculative trading hit the highest level in at least 20 years. That's according to Sundial Capital Research. They looked at options trades, and people are just really going crazy in the options market, but also in the stock market. Now, there are good reasons for this. I think many people really have a fear of like missing out. They've seen stocks going up. They really want to participate in that. And also, there's so much money from the central banks around the world flooding the system, that flood of liquidity is looking for a home. It's looking for things to actually flow into. And one of the obvious things for it to flow into is stocks. So we're having all this free money flow around, and it gets pumped into the stock market, pushes things up. That makes people say, hey, I can see that going up. I really want to participate in that, so they throw their own money at it. So it's kind of building up like that. I don't think that ends well, but it can go on longer than the bears can remain solvent. Most of my positions are bullish now. I'm kind of riding this along, but it won't surprise me when it ends, because it will end eventually.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after this.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're chatting with Sean Brodrick. Sean, what's the story for gold?
Well, gold, as you and I speak, we are really waiting for the latest announcement from the Fed. Usually gold sells off into that. This isn't any different from that. Gold may have hit a recent peak, though, because we are in the summertime. Gold usually kind of flattens out in the summer. But against that, we have to weigh the fact that central bank money is flooding the system, looking for a home, and because of what the central banks are doing, because of what governments around the world are doing, people are becoming more afraid of inflation. That doesn't mean we have inflation yet. It's the fear of inflation. The fact that you can see all this paper money just coming in everywhere, that makes people want to have more gold in their portfolio. So I think gold is a good bet. Now, that said, we have taken lots of gains in my trading services. We have a small portfolio now, but we will use these pullbacks to add to it, because the longer-term story for the rest of this year and certainly into next year is very strong for gold. So I'm happy to ride that trend.
Marijuana stocks, are they making a comeback?
Yeah. I mean, as long as the market goes up, they really seem leveraged to the market. It's the hot money situation again. All this free money flowing around, people need to put it somewhere, and you have these, or I should say you have select marijuana stocks with great year-over-year and quarter-over-quarter revenue growth. And some of that is actually turning into actual earnings in the better stocks. So those are the kind of ones that I'm steering my subscribers to. They've been doing quite well. Certainly it's a good trend to follow. It'll only become problematic if the market crashes again, because marijuana stocks will be sold off hard. But in the meantime, we have companies with great growth, both in revenue and some in earnings. Some actually pay dividends. So I'm certainly trying to ride this trend for all it's worth, and I think other people should be too.
Mm-hmm. How would you sum up what's going on right now?
In what?
Well, in the markets, we've heard that the guys or people who used to bet on the sports books now have decided to get into stocks, and they're treating it like they're the Indianapolis Colts or the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, well, I actually proposed a new publication to my bosses because of that. They think it's short term. I don't know. I think that certainly to a certain portion of the population which likes to make bets every day, and that's one thing we are learning about professional gamblers, or not even professional gamblers. Let's call them amateur gamblers, people who like to bet on sports every day. They don't bet a lot, but they like that action every day. They don't have it in sports right now. Maybe they'll go back to sports when that comes back, or maybe a lot of them will learn to like the stock market, and so they'll stick around. Because you can make money in the stock market this way. That's been proven over and over again. As for those people that entered in March and think only things go up, well, they'll have some hard lessons ahead of them. Certainly the market teaches you humility if you don't go broke first. And so then they'll learn to hedge their bets. They'll learn to invest in stocks with real value, that kind of thing. There's a whole learning curve ahead of them. I think what you're generally speaking to, though, is there a speculative fervor in the stock market? Yes, there is. We are seeing, certainly things like those metrics like a forward price to earnings, stuff like that, just get way out of historical whack. But again, this is due to the central bank money that's just sloshing around in the system. So if you turn bearish at this point, you are saying, well, this is going to be the end of the central banks pumping up stocks with money. I don't know when that end is. I am happy to ride along with that trend. It will end at some point. At some point, they are going to call time on the party, right? But as long as they keep as long as they keep the money flowing, people would be crazy not to ride that trend because it is something that is working now. So it's a confusing thing for anyone who actually considers them a value investor because things that don't have real value are being blown all out of proportion. But on the other hand, you can see why it's happening. So, you can just shrug and you can either head along for the ride or else you can just choose some small area of the market to hide in. I have a whole mix of different investments I do and that I recommend to my subscribers. We are trying to be sane about this, trying not to chase the crazy money things, and yet people do that and they make a lot of money. I'm not going to call them fools. I'll wait for the market to prove it if it's true. We'll just have to see how that goes.
Sean, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Always a pleasure.
My guest has been Sean Brodrick, Senior Editor at WeissRatings.com. If you have any questions for Sean or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@HowStreet.com. Our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.